knows what you should be doing, even though they don't know your life, your stories, your desires, your fears, your family, your obligations. I'm hoping this podcast gives you the opportunity to think about what you want, to listen to your still small voice. Welcome back. I'm Jennifer. In the first episode this season, we talked about what we're collecting from this year and who we want to celebrate that with, or how we want to celebrate that. And in the second episode, we talked about looking ahead and what we want for next year. This episode is about putting them both together. So all this information you've gathered actually does something and means something for you. So this episode, what do you need to do to finish out this year and also get yourself ready for the next one? I talked in an earlier episode that I'm not in favor of normally of larger big to-dos when it comes to retreating and dreaming and planning. I'm also, shocker, I'm sure, not a huge fan of doing that for celebrations. I'm not a big gathering celebratory sort of person. They're very jarring and uncomfortable for me. So I'm all about planning like little small things to celebrate and circle back to acknowledge where I've been and where I'm going. Granted, I've done some larger things too, but honestly, I feel like the intention of celebrating that thing or processing kind of gets lost in those larger celebrations in the realm of when you do a big thing, you've got a plan and there's just all this moving parts and pieces going on. So instead, there have been times I chose to have a meal outside in a park I hadn't been to before, which I still remember now, almost 20 years later, about what that particular meal and what that moment really meant to me. However, if you are a party person, please go for it. I just want to validate those who would prefer to celebrate quietly and alone. There's valid reasons. The challenge though with these kind of quiet and alone celebrations is that it's so easy to be oops, something else came up, or I had to take care of this, and never actually get it on the calendar and do it. So I kind of use it as a double thing. It's a perfect opportunity to make sure I show up for myself. So it serves two purposes. It serves a celebration and it serves reminding that I am going to show up for myself, which is a great thing to celebrate. So in this episode, first we consider what do we need to do or want to do to finish out the year. I know there's a couple little chores that I would like to get done before the end of the year. I believe there is something that has been pinned together that needs to be sewed that's been sitting there for a good couple months. I could do it in 10 minutes. I just haven't done it yet. So that's one of those things. Maybe you want a afternoon of reflection, or maybe you do need a, night out with the girls for dinner. Is there any other projects, any other cleaning things you'd like to do before winter and before the holiday season? Or maybe, you just, need a check-in with your best friend. In the more kind of less tangible, more emotional, is there an issue you've been staring at that now it's, time to wrap it up as best you can, or figure out how you're going to move through the winter season with it so it's not hanging over your head. And then it's time to think about the second part of this. In finishing out the year, what do you need to do, or would you like to do to sow the seeds for next year? So these are the things that maybe you want to bring into your life. Maybe it's time to start researching classes or groups for a hobby or skill you want to learn, or maybe it's time to do some cleaning out emotionally so there's space for something else in your life. Maybe you don't know what it is yet. And I am 100% for not knowing what it is and knowing that you want something different, but not knowing what it is. So in that case, I always, for myself, kind of start cleaning out emotionally and sometimes physically to just kind of be okay, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for the next thing. I don't know what it is, but I'm ready to listen and figure out what that is. So with all the answers you got from what you're collecting and celebrating, what you're ready to let go of and how that's working, or, what maybe you need to get ready to let go of, as well as taking that time to dream into the next year in the most gentle and loving, nurturing way. This is that time now, before we get into this holiday rush. So for me, I've got three kind of things that is on my mind for this sort of thing this year. Besides that little sewing project I need to do, I always have piles of books that I want to read. And by this time of year, they are stressing me out. I don't know why it stresses me out, but it really does stress me out. So now's the time for me to decide what I'm going to finish actually reading this year, and what gets moved to the next year, or honestly what I'm just maybe not going to put on my to-be-read list. As I know, a lot of people can understand your to-be-read list has to-be-read lists, and sometimes I just have to stop and say, no, I cannot take on any more. It seems silly and simple, but like for me, it makes such a big difference to know, like, these are the books I've committed to the rest of the year. This is what's moving in next year, and this is what's just letting go. So for me, that's a combination of like let go and sort of planning for the next year. The second thing for me is I know I always need some more reflection time. And I'm actually hoping to get one while on a trip with an 8-hour drive, probably more 9-hour drive, to a remote location for a week or so. While I'm recording this, I'm getting ready to go on the trip. When I believe this comes out, I will be just returning from that trip. So granted, this is not a full-on retreat. I'm visiting family. So I know it's going to bring up the stuff, and I'm going to have to deal with that. But I'm hoping that by being aware and kind of stepping away a little bit, I can figure out some of the other things that I've stepped away from, and with family, trying to figure out how to navigate the next phase that my family and I are in, and try to figure out how to do that without making anyone crazy. If anyone has any tips, like, please let me know. I would be very grateful on that. So again, there's another one of like stuff I need to let go of, and at the same time think and process about thinking what might be coming in for the next year. And the last one I'll share is that I want to commit to a course in 2026. I don't know what that looks like yet, or exactly what I want it to be. I have many ideas and many options always in my inbox, and they always make me happy, and I always am like, later. So this year I feel strongly that I need to commit and put down money by the end of 2025, if at all possible, to make it happen in 2026. So it's time for me to start like deciding, and again, maybe later or maybe never, and just time to let some of it go, and try to figure out what's important next year and what my focus is, so I can make that happen. I've done a ton of online courses and they've all been good, but I feel it's time for me to commit to something in person. And I'm hoping, and actually this is the point, is I need travel to be the kind of the reason, with kind of the course being just as important, but equally important, the travel and the course. So that is definitely looking into next year, because it's funny that now we have gone so far back to where we used to be able to kind of do like quick trips or whatever, but now things are just filling up years and years in advance. So I just want to make sure that I'm not missing out, because if it's something I really want to do, normally I'm all about, let me just do it last minute, but I'm feeling like it's time that I make a larger, longer plan and commitment to myself on that. So those are kind of the top 3, including that little sewing thing that I'm working on this fall to celebrate, to end, to wrap up, and to also think about like what's coming next. So for you to think about in practical terms, like what do you need to wrap up, celebrate, let go, while also getting yourself ready for what you want to bring in for the next year. I don't feel like those are 2 separate things. They are 2 sides of the same coin. If you don't want to think about this past year, awesome. You get to think about next year. If next year you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing with my life, it's like, just bombs going off, then like think about this past year. Any way you go at it is correct. There's nothing too big or small, or weird or anything. All ideas are valid and need to be acted upon when it comes to stuff like this. So I know, and I also have a challenge sometimes with the letting go part of all of this. Even sometimes the celebrating and checklist items can be a challenge. And I find dreaming like so much easier. It just requires absolutely no effort in the real world. But that letting go part can be such a challenge, but also so necessary. So since that can be such a challenge and a bummer, join me the next time for the next episode right around Halloween time, which is the perfect time for letting go and acknowledging that darker side of things. So I will see you then. Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this episode, I'm so glad. And if you didn't, well, that's fine too. Thanks for giving it a try. You can do all the things if you so desire. You can subscribe, rate, review, follow, emoji, whatever it is you feel called to do. Please do what you feel called to do. If you take nothing else from this podcast, please take that. I do appreciate any feedback that you may have. You can reach out to me at my email address found in the show notes. Thank you so much.